Okay, let's jump right into this. You know that feeling when you look out at your yard and just feel totally overwhelmed? The endless mowing, the constant watering, the sheer amount of upkeep. Well, if that's you, you are absolutely in the right place. Today, we're not just talking about dumping a pile of stones on the lawn and calling it a day. No way. We're looking at the absolute best practices from landscaping experts for architecting a true rock landscape. We're going to take that outdoor space and turn it into a low maintenance, visually stunning environment that beautifully blends natural textures with structural elegance. Seriously, think of this not as some daunting weekend chore, but as an incredibly exciting, highly designed project to create your own perfect outdoor room.
But before a single shovel even touches the dirt, we have to ask one absolutely crucial question. What is the actual aesthetic and functional goal of your landscape? I mean, look at your own yard right now. Are you desperate for a solution to those sky-high water bills? Maybe you're trying to stabilize a really tricky slope. Or perhaps you're just craving a super clean, minimalist modern look. Look, defining that ultimate goal is literally step one. Because a truly successful rock landscape, it requires careful, deliberate planning.
And to get us to that goal, here is our roadmap for today's explainer. We've got 5 distinct phases. Phase 1 is the blueprint. Phase 2 is sourcing the bricks. Phase 3 is pouring the foundation. Phase 4 is framing the house. And finally, Phase 5 is interior decorating. Let's kick things off with Phase 1, the blueprint. So this phase is all about your conceptual design and style. Because as any good architect will tell you, before you move any earth, you gotta define the vision. This is where you establish distinct zones in the yard, dividing up your space into focal points, maybe some winding pathways and planting beds. And the design versatility you have with stone here is just incredible. On one hand, you could go with a desert or xeriscaping theme. Think rugged elements, giant boulders, decomposed granite, and those tough, drought-tolerant succulents. Now, contrast that with a Japanese Zen approach. That style leans heavily into asymmetry, using raked gravel to actually represent water, perfectly paired with carefully placed feature stones and soft moss. Or, you could go modern with clean lines, or naturalistic with irregular flagstones and a dry riverbed. The choice is totally yours, but you have to lock in that aesthetic blueprint first. And since we just mentioned it, let's quickly define this term because it is a staple in your professional landscaping vocabulary. Xeriscaping. It's basically a landscaping method featuring large boulders, decomposed granite, and drought-tolerant succulents, all specifically designed to minimize water use. It is the ultimate modern, low-maintenance design, and honestly, a massive reason why so many homeowners are making the switch to rock landscapes today. Okay, moving right along to Phase 2, sourcing the bricks. Once you have your style dialed in, you need the right mix of materials to create actual depth and a sense of natural authenticity. If we break down how different scales of stonework in your yard, we start at the very top with boulders and feature stones. We're talking granite, sandstone, or basalt. These are your heavy hitters, your structural anchors, and major focal points. Next up, we have medium rock and cobbles, like Mexican beach pebbles or river jacks. These are perfect for creating dry creek beds and sharp accent borders. Then we step it down again to ground cover and gravel, your pea gravel, decomposed granite, or crushed stone. This is the stuff you use for massive surface coverage and pathways. And finally, flagstone and pavers like slate or bluestone are exactly what you'll use for stepping stones and formal walkways. You really need a good mix of these to make the whole landscape sing. But when you're actually out there sourcing these materials, the experts highlight a really crucial number you need to remember: 3. This is a massive takeaway right here. Stick to a maximum of 2 to 3 complementary stone colors. Seriously, if you get carried away and mix 5 or 6 different colors of rock, your yard is going to look chaotic and totally unnatural. Keep it to 3 max. Oh, and another thing, always try to source local rock. Buying local stone ensures the landscape looks like it organically belongs in your region rather than looking like an alien planet just crash landed on your property. All right, on to Phase 3. Pouring the foundation. So, this is all about site preparation. Look, site prep is definitely the unglamorous part, but skipping it, that is exactly how you end up with absolute disasters down the road: shifting stones, sinking features, and literal weed invasions. There are 3 main steps to get this right. Step 1, clear and grade. You've got to rip out the existing turf, weeds, and topsoil. And here's a major insider secret from the pros. You absolutely must grade the soil so that water actively slopes away from your home's foundation. Step 2, install edging. You can use metal, thick plastic, or stone benders to get a really clean separation between your new rock beds and your lawn, patio, or driveway. And then step 3 is laying your weed barrier, which is just incredibly important.
You must lay a commercial-grade weed barrier and pay attention to the emphasis on heavy-duty permeable landscape fabric. That word permeable is the key. Yes, it suppresses weeds, but it still allows vital water and air to reach the soil beneath, so the earth actually stays healthy. And you want to make absolutely sure you secure this fabric firmly into the dirt using metal landscape staples. Do not skip the staples. If you do, that fabric is going to bunch up and ruin your whole layout over time.
Now we're getting to the fun stuff. Phase 4, framing the house. With a rock-solid foundation in place, it's time for the heavy lifting. This is where we build the actual structural bones of your landscape before we even think about adding the smaller ground covers. And when it comes to placing those big, heavy structural bones, you have to follow the golden rule of hardscaping, the rule of threes. When you're placing your large feature boulders, always group them in odd numbers, 1, 3, or 5. Never place them in straight, even lines. Mother Nature doesn't organize rocks with a tape measure and perfectly spaced even numbers, right? Grouping them in odd numbers gives your placement a beautifully natural, completely organic feel. And when it comes to physically placing those boulders, here is another massive pro tip to keep in mind. You should always sink your large feature boulders slightly into the earth. Basically, about 1/3, or 33% of the stone, should be buried underground, leaving about 67% exposed above ground. If you just rest a giant boulder right on top of the soil, it literally looks like it was just dropped there by a dump truck. Sinking it a third of the way down makes it look naturally weathered, like it's been permanently anchored to that spot for centuries. Another fantastic framing technique is the dry creek bed. If you're dealing with annoying drainage issues, or honestly, if you just want to add some gorgeous visual movement to the yard, dig a shallow, winding trench, line it with that permeable fabric we talked about, and then just layer it with varying sizes of river rock and cobbles. It mimics a natural stream beautifully. Oh, and a quick side note while we're on the topic of paths and framing, if you're laying out loose gravel pathways, especially with something like decomposed granite, make sure you compact them extremely well so that walking on them feels totally stable. Finally, we arrive at Phase 5, interior decorating. We are now officially transitioning into the final planting and softscaping stage, moving from that heavy, rugged language of structural stone to the soft, beautiful, organic touches of life. Here are your actionable finishing touches. When you are ready to plant, just cut a simple X into your landscape fabric. Fold the flaps back, dig your hole, and pop the plant in. Then pull that fabric snug right back around the base of the plant. Next up, you layer your ground cover. Spread your gravel or crushed rock about 2 to 3 inches deep right over the fabric and rake it nice and smooth. Finally, add some natural organic mulch, like bark chips, immediately around the base of your plants. This is crucial. You want to keep that bare, hot rock a few inches away from the plant stems so the soil actually retains moisture and your brand new plants don't just roast in the afternoon sun. To sum up exactly why this final phase is so critical, the experts will tell you hardscapes need organic life to soften the edges and bring the environment to life. All those interior decorating elements, the spilling perennials, the structural architectural plants, the soft mulches, they perfectly balance out the heavy structural framing we just put all that effort into building. Without the softscaping, a rock yard can end up feeling really cold and harsh. But with it, it feels like a living, breathing oasis. So what does this all mean? Creating a stunning, low-maintenance yard isn't magic. It's literally just good architecture. We've walked through it all, from sketching that conceptual blueprint to sourcing the right stones, pouring the foundation, framing out those heavy boulders, all the way down to the final organic interior decorating. Now that you hold the architectural blueprint and understand the real rules of the trade, what natural masterpiece are you going to build in your own outdoor space? It is officially time to step outside, take a look at your yard, and start planning that transformation. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. I absolutely can't wait to see what you build.